3 weeks ago, a claim exploded across the internet. An artificial intelligence had translated a signal coming from Europa, Jupiter's frozen moon, and the scientists who saw the results simply stopped talking. No press conference, no denial, nothing. Millions of views. Zero official response. And here's the part nobody expected. When you dig into what's actually happening inside NASA, inside SETI, inside the AI labs, scanning deep space right now, the truth is stranger than the rumor, because something is coming from Europa. Machines are decoding it. And the silence is real. Stay with me. Every layer of this gets deeper. Let's start with the question that started everything. Could an artificial intelligence actually translate a signal from a moon 600 million kilometers away? Most people laughed it off. A few people panicked. But almost nobody asked the right question, which is not, did aliens call us? But what exactly are our machines hearing out there that we can't hear ourselves? Because when you ask that question, the story stops being a rumor and starts being a briefing. Here's what most people are not seeing. Europa is not just another moon. It is, according to planetary scientists who have spent entire careers on this single object, the most likely place in our entire solar system, outside of Earth, where life could exist right now. Not fossils, not ancient traces. Living chemistry, active today, the second while you're watching this, beneath a shell of ice estimated at 15 to 25. Kilometers thick lies a global saltwater ocean, and the numbers are staggering. That hidden ocean is believed to hold roughly twice as much liquid water as every ocean on Earth combined. Read that again? A moon, smaller than our own moon, wrapped around more water than our entire planet. But water alone isn't the story. The story is what that water has been doing. It has been sending signals, real ones, measurable ones, and this is where the viral headline collides with actual history. Because the first time a machine translated a message from Europa wasn't 3 weeks ago. It was almost 30 years ago, and almost nobody outside of planetary science understands what happened. In the late 1990s, NASA's Galileo spacecraft flew past Europa carrying a magnetometer, an instrument that reads magnetic fields. As Galileo passed through Jupiter's colossal magnetic environment, it detected something that shouldn't have been there. Europa was responding. The moon was generating its own induced magnetic field, an electromagnetic answer to Jupiter's pulse, and there is essentially only one way a frozen ball of rock and ice can do that. If there is a vast, electrically conductive layer beneath its surface, a layer like a global ocean of salty water. Think about what that means. Europa's ocean wasn't discovered by a camera. It was discovered because the ocean itself was broadcasting its existence in the language of physics, and it took human-built computation to decode what it was saying. The moon spoke, the machines listened. That part of the headline has been true since 1997, but here's where it gets worse, or better, depending on how you look at it. Buried in Galileo's old data was something even bigger, and it sat unnoticed in archives for 2 decades. During one close flyby in 1997, the spacecraft recorded a brief, bizarre disturbance in Europa's magnetic field and plasma environment, a blip that the original teams couldn't fully explain, so it was filed away. 20 years later, researchers went back to that same data with modern analysis techniques and computational models that simply didn't exist in the 90s. And when they had reprocessed it, the answer stunned them. Galileo had almost certainly flown directly through a plume of water erupting from Europa's surface, a geyser of ocean material blasting into space. The evidence of Europa venting its hidden ocean into the void had been sitting on Earth, inside our own archives, unread for 20 years. This is the pattern you need to remember for everything that follows. The signal arrives long before the understanding does. The bottleneck was never the universe. The bottleneck was us, and that pattern kept repeating. The Hubble Space Telescope caught what appeared to be water vapor plumes rising from Europa's southern regions. Transient, unpredictable, like the moon exhales and then holds its breath. Then, in 2023, the James Webb Space Telescope pointed its instruments at Europa and found carbon dioxide concentrated in a fractured region called Terra Regio. And the analysis indicated that this carbon likely came from within, from the ocean itself, pushed up through the ice. Carbon. The backbone element of every living thing we have ever known, seeping upward from an alien sea. The mainstream coverage treated it as a nice science story and moved on. But inside the astrobiology community, this landed like a thunderclap, because it meant the ocean isn't sealed off. It communicates with the surface. Material goes up, which means a spacecraft doesn't have to drill through 20 kilometers of ice to taste that ocean. The ocean is delivering samples into space for free. Now hold that thought, because this is where the second half of the headline enters the story. The artificial intelligence. And what's actually happening in AI-driven space listening right now is far more dramatic than the rumor mill ever imagined. A team led by researchers at the University of Toronto built a machine learning algorithm for the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, and when they turned it loose on archived telescope data, it found potential signals that other methods had missed. 8 signals of interest from an initial scan of 820 stars. But the detail that should make the hair on your neck stand up is this. The dataset they searched, roughly 150 terabytes of observations from the Green Bank telescope, over 480 hours of sky data, had already been searched by classical techniques back in 2017 and labeled as containing nothing interesting. Humans looked. Humans found nothing. The machine looked at the exact same data and pulled out 8 anomalies with the fingerprints of technology. Read that again. The signals were already on our hard drives. We had them. We just couldn't see them until an AI taught itself what to look for. To be clear, scientists could not confirm these signals came from extraterrestrial intelligence because the signals were never redetected when telescopes checked those stars again. And that matters, and I'll come back to why. But the precedent was set, and it is chilling in its implications. Our own archives may contain discoveries we haven't made yet. Then the machines got faster, much faster. Researchers at the Breakthrough Listen initiative, working with NVIDIA, developed an AI system for detecting fast radio bursts and unusual signals that dramatically outperforms existing methods. And it has been deployed on the Allen Telescope Array in California, processing a torrent of data in real time. In testing, it handled a data stream of 86 gigabits per second, and the lead investigators said the system doesn't just find known signal types faster, it can discover completely unexpected signal shapes, transmission schemes humans haven't even imagined. Sit with that sentence for a moment. The people running humanity's largest alien hunting program are openly saying their AI can now recognize kinds of messages that no human mind has ever conceived of. We didn't just build a better ear. We built an ear that hears categories of sound we don't have names for, and it is switched on, right now, tonight, scanning the sky while the rest of the world sleeps. So, now you understand the 2 real ingredients behind the viral story. Ingredient 1, Europa genuinely emits signals, magnetic, chemical, physical, and genuinely vents its hidden ocean into space. Ingredient 2, artificial intelligence is genuinely finding things in space data that humans missed, at speeds humans can't match. Fuse those 2 truths together, exaggerate the connection, and you get the headline that broke the internet. But here's where everything changes, because the third part of that headline, the part about scientists going silent, isn't an exaggeration at all. It's arguably the most accurate part of the entire claim. And the reason why will change how you interpret every space story you read from now on. There is a document most people have never heard of. It's a set of post-detection protocols developed through the International Academy of Astronautics. Essentially, the instruction manual for what scientists are supposed to do if they ever detect a genuine signal from another civilization. And the first commandment of that manual is simple. Say nothing publicly until the detection is verified. Confirm it isn't interference. Confirm it isn't a satellite, a glitch, a microwave oven, a military transmission. Get independent observatories to see the same thing. Only then do you speak. In other words, silence is not the anomaly. Silence is the procedure. If scientists ever did catch something real, the first observable symptom from the outside would be exactly what the viral videos described. People who suddenly stop talking. And we know this is how it plays out, because it has already happened. In 2019, a radio telescope in Australia picked up a narrowband signal at 982 megahertz that appeared to come from the direction of Proxima Centauri, the nearest star to our sun. It had properties that made interference unlikely. It drifted in frequency the way a transmission from a moving planet might. The Breakthrough Listen team gave it a designation, BLC-1, Breakthrough Listen Candidate 1, and then they did exactly what the protocol demands. They went quiet and started tearing the signal apart, test after test, for months. The public only found out because the story leaked to the press in late 2020. And when the analysis finally concluded, the verdict was that BLC-1 was almost certainly human-made interference, a ghost created by our own electronics. But notice the shape of the event. A candidate signal, a long institutional silence, a leak, a media firestorm, and a quiet technical resolution a year later. That is the template. That is what scientists went silent actually looks like in the real world. It is not a conspiracy. It is a checklist. But from the outside, a checklist and a cover-up look identical, and that gap between procedure and perception is the machine that manufactures viral panic. There's an older ghost haunting this story too, and no briefing on this topic is honest without it. In 1977, a radio telescope in Ohio recorded a signal so powerful, so narrow, so perfectly matched to what an artificial transmission should look like, that the astronomer reviewing the printout circled it and wrote one word in the margin. Wow. The signal lasted 72 seconds. It came from the direction of the constellation Sagittarius, and in the half-century since, despite hundreds of follow-up attempts, it has never been heard again. No repetition, no confirmation, no explanation that fully satisfies anyone. The wow signal is the reason scientists refuse to announce anything on the strength of a single detection, because they have been living with a one-time miracle for almost 50 years, unable to prove what it was, unable to prove what it wasn't. That 72-second scar is why the silence protocol exists. One burned generation taught every generation after it: verify or stay quiet. Now, with all of that context loaded, let me show you why this exact moment, mid-2026, is when the Europa story stops being about rumors and starts being about hardware. Because while the internet was arguing about a fake translation, something very real, very large, and very expensive has been closing the distance to Europa this entire time. On October 14th, 2024, NASA launched Europa Clipper on a SpaceX Falcon Heavy, the largest interplanetary spacecraft the agency has ever built, on a 8 billion mile journey to the Jupiter system. This is not a flyby probe taking postcard photos. This is a $5 billion class flagship mission with one core purpose: to determine whether Europa has the conditions to support life, using 9 science instruments that will all operate simultaneously on every single pass. Ice-penetrating radar that can see through the shell, spectrometers that can identify the chemistry of the surface, instruments designed to sample and analyze any material Europa throws into space, meaning if the spacecraft flies through one of those ocean plumes, it can effectively taste an alien sea without ever touching the ground, and the trajectory reads like the plot of a thriller. On March 1st, 2025, Europa Clipper streaked just 550 miles above the surface of Mars, using the planet's gravity to bend its path, and that Mars flyby set up its second gravity assist, a close encounter with Earth in December 2026 that will act as a slingshot for the remainder of the journey to Jupiter. Now, check the date on your phone. That Earth flyby is only months away. On December 3rd, 2026, this spacecraft comes screaming back past its home planet, approaching to roughly 164,000 kilometers, closer to us than our own moon, steals a final burst of momentum from Earth's gravity, and then leaves humanity behind for good. When it crosses our sky this December, it will be the last time this machine is ever near home. The next stop is Jupiter. Arrival, April 2030. And beginning in 2031, a campaign of 49 close flybys of Europa, 49 passes over that cracked, glowing ice, each one skimming lower and gathering more data than every previous Europa observation in human history combined. And here's the detail that tells you how seriously the mission designers take this place. Clipper won't orbit Europa directly because it can't. Europa sits inside Jupiter's radiation belts, one of the most lethal radiation environments in the solar system, an invisible storm of charged particles that would destroy the spacecraft's electronics if it lingered. So the mission flies long looping orbits around Jupiter instead, diving in for each Europa flyby and then retreating to safety. A trajectory specifically engineered to survive the radiation. Think about the poetry of that. The most promising world for alien life in our solar system is guarded by a wall of radiation so violent that our best machine can only dart in, grab data, and run. Whatever secrets Europa holds, they are, quite literally, defended. And Clipper is not going alone. The European Space Agency's JUICE spacecraft, the Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer, is also en route to the Jovian system right now, on its own multi-year trajectory, scheduled to arrive in the early 2030s to study Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto, 2 civilizational-scale robotic emissaries launched by 2 different space agencies, converging on the same icy moons within the same window of years. That is not a coincidence of scheduling. That is the scientific establishment of planet Earth quietly placing its biggest bet of the century. And the bet is that the answer to "Are we alone?" is frozen under Europa's ice. Now connect the threads, because this is the part the viral videos accidentally got right without understanding why. When Clipper's 49 flybys begin, the data volume will be immense. Radar soundings, magnetic readings, plasma measurements, chemical spectra, gravity data, all pouring back across 600 million kilometers. And who do you think will be doing the first pass on those oceans of data? Not a tired graduate student with a highlighter. Machine learning pipelines. The same class of AI systems that found 8 signals humans missed. The same class of systems now scanning radio data in real time at the Allen Telescope Array. The first entity to notice anything anomalous at Europa? A strange chemical ratio in a plume? An unexplained structure under the ice? A pattern in the noise? Will almost certainly not be a human being. It will be an algorithm. A machine will see it first. A machine will flag it. A machine will, in a very real sense, translate Europa's raw physics into something human minds can grasp. The viral headline was wrong about the facts, but it was accidentally, eerily right about the shape of the future. When discovery comes, AI will be standing between us and it. And that raises a question almost nobody in the mainstream conversation is asking: who controls that moment? Walk through this scenario with me. It's 2031. Clipper skims through a plume over Terra Regio. The mass spectrometer drinks in a cloud of frozen ocean spray. The data crawls back to Earth, and an analysis pipeline flags something extraordinary. Complex organic molecules in ratios that, on Earth, are produced by biology. Not proof, not a headline yet, a candidate. What happens next? The protocol happens next. Verification, cross-checks, independent review, weeks of it, months of it. And during every one of those days, a small group of scientists and officials on this planet would be walking around carrying the biggest secret in human history. Not because they're hiding it, but because announcing it prematurely and being wrong would be catastrophic for science's credibility. Now ask yourself, in that window, what does the outside world see? It sees scientists who suddenly went silent. It sees canceled talks, vague answers, nervous press officers. It sees, in other words, exactly the scenario the viral videos described. The rumor didn't predict the past. It may have accidentally rehearsed the future, and there's a colder layer beneath even that. A confirmed detection of life, even microbial life, inside Europa would not stay a science story for long. It would instantly become a geopolitical event. Which nation's instruments made the detection? Which agencies get access to the raw data? Whether the discovery accelerates a new race for the outer solar system, the way Sputnik ignited the race for the moon. Space agencies answer to governments, and governments do not handle civilization-altering information casually. The scientists have a protocol for silence. So do states. If you think the quiet after a real detection would last only as long as the peer review, you haven't been paying attention to how power behaves around information that changes everything. But let me pull you back from 2031 to right now, because the present moment has its own quiet drama that almost no one noticed. Europa Clipper's instruments are already alive. Within weeks of launch, 2 of its science instruments had already deployed hardware that will stay extended for the next decade, and during the Mars flyby, the team switched on the thermal imager and ran the radar instrument's components together for the first time, a test that could never be fully done on Earth, because the radar antennas are so massive and their wavelengths so long that no facility on the planet could contain them. Understand what that means. We built an instrument to X-ray an alien ocean's ice shell that was too big to even test on our own world. The machine had to leave Earth before it could learn to use its own senses. It is out there right now, in the dark between planets, rehearsing, practicing, preparing to interrogate Europa. And this December, it swings past all of us one final time, close enough that amateur astronomers will track it crossing the night sky before vanishing toward Jupiter forever. So where does that leave the claim that started all of this? The translated signal, the silent scientists? Here is the honest, verified truth, and notice that it's more unsettling than the fiction. No, an AI has not translated an alien message from Europa. Anyone telling you otherwise is selling clicks. But yes, Europa has been sending physical signals for decades, and yes, we needed machines to decode every single one of them. The magnetic whisper that revealed the ocean, the archived plume data that sat unread for 20 years, the carbon fingerprints that told us the ocean touches the surface. Yes, AI systems are now finding things in space data that human analysts missed, and their own creators say those systems can detect signal types humans have never imagined. And yes, if a real detection ever happens, silence is precisely what the protocol demands, which means the absence of announcements can never again be read as the absence of discoveries. The rumor was a distorted echo, but every rumor echoes off something solid, and the solid thing here is enormous. Because, step back and look at the board. For the first time in the history of our species, all the pieces are on the table simultaneously. A target world with a warm, salted, chemically active ocean confirmed beneath its ice. A flagship spacecraft, the largest we've ever sent to another planet. Already in flight, months away from its final farewell pass of Earth. A second spacecraft from a second continent converging on the same system. And a new generation of artificial intelligence, already proven capable of hearing what we cannot, standing by to read whatever comes back. We have never, not in 1977 when the WOW signal burned across a printout, not in 1997 when Europa's ocean first whispered through a magnetometer, been positioned like this. The question, are we alone, has always been philosophy. Sometime in the early 2030s, over a small frozen moon, it becomes an experiment with a result. And that forces the final questions. The ones that don't have answers yet, the ones that will keep this story alive long after the viral videos are forgotten. When Europa Clipper makes its 49 passes and the data floods home, what happens on the day an algorithm flags something it cannot classify? Something that fits no natural template we've ever built? Who gets told first? The public or the powerful? If the ocean under that ice turns out to be inhabited, even by something microscopic, are we ready for what that does to every religion, every philosophy, every nation's sense of its place in the universe? And if the scientists do go silent someday, really silent all at once, will we recognize it for what it is? Remember the pattern this entire story has taught you. The signal always arrives before the understanding. The evidence sits in the archive before anyone reads it. The machine hears it before the human does. Which means the most important discovery in human history may not announce itself with a broadcast or a headline. It may begin exactly the way the rumor said it would, with a pattern in the noise, with a machine that notices, and with a room full of scientists who suddenly carefully say nothing at all. December 3rd, 2026. Watch the sky. The messenger is coming home one last time before it goes to find out.